I just want to thank you all for coming out on such a beautiful, beautiful day. We're very privileged to have the opportunity to have Adami from CNBC's Fast Money here to share a little bit of insight from his life and kind of the successes in his life, and that'd be great. So let's go ahead and give him a big round of applause.
Thanks, everyone. Can everybody hear me okay in the back? I love when the front row is empty, because somebody should be sitting in the front row. That's lesson number one. But it's an honor to be back here. Mary's just telling me, it's 3.5 years ago, I guess I was here, and it's an absolute honor to be here. Mary knows I'd do absolutely anything for her, and I'll talk about it in a few minutes, but in terms of connecting with alumni, connecting with people that can help you and want to help you, there's nobody better than Mary Duffy. Mary took me out of obscurity about 10 years ago, and now Fast Money is 9.5 years old, and arguably it's one of the most successful, if not popular shows on the network. And it's Mary's vision that got us here, and hopefully we go for the next 10. So when I was at Goldman Sachs, I was one of the recruiters at Georgetown University. If you went to school different places, you got to recruit there. And I was down on campus, and there was going to be a speaker. His name was Peter Kiernan, and his flight was late, and we were worried that he wasn't going to be able to speak. And just as the event was about to start, he comes flying out the hall, a bit unshoveled, disheveled, but he got himself together without any notes in front of him, and he told a few stories, and he was the most compelling speaker that I've ever seen to this day. So it's my hope, with no notes and a couple stories, I'm able to sort of replicate what Peter did. So here I am, 52 years old. I have a lot of stories to tell, and by no means am I a success, but to the extent that I'm viewed that way, here's some of the lessons as to why I got where I got, okay? The first lesson is this: don't allow anyone to dictate who you are or what you want to become. So think about that. Don't allow anyone to tell you who you are or what you want to do or what you should be doing. Because guess what? There are always going to be naysayers. The unfortunate reality is most people are really negative. And if they're not successful, you know what? You're not going to be successful either, because misery loves company. So I'll tell a story, because that's what I do. My mother met my father at Fordham Law School, November, or whenever they started, September 1960. First day of class, 3 women in class. Professor says to my mother and these other 2 women who probably were sitting together at the time, "Why are you here? What are you doing here? You're here to find a husband? You're in the wrong spot. You should probably leave now." This is 1960. That's 56 years ago. My mother, undeterred, basically said, "No, I'm here because I want to be a lawyer, and 3 years later I'm going to graduate from this university." And that's exactly what she did. She was one of 3 women that graduated in the class of 1963, the Lincoln Center campus. It was their first graduating class. And she used to tell us that story. I'm one of 5 kids. And her point was, there are always going to be people that are looking to knock you down. You know what? Forget them. Forget them. Don't listen to them. You want to do something, you should do it. Do not allow others to define who you are. How did it stay with me? So now I'm a senior in high school. I'm 17 years old, going through the application process. The guidance counselor pulls me in. "Guy, where are you applying to school?" I rattle off a couple names. Last name I say is Georgetown University. She looks at me and says, "You're never going to get in. Don't even bother." I got up, 17 years old, and walked out. Why did I do that? Because the stories my mother told me resonated, and I'm not going to let this woman tell me what I can do and what I can't do. I got up and walked out. Guess what? My letter of acceptance came about this time of year, right? First thing I did was made a Xerox copy. You can Google that if you don't know what it is. Brought it into her office, dropped it on her desk, and walked out. Because she was not going to dictate who I was going to be or where I was going to go to school. No way. Next, trust your instincts, okay? Trust your instincts. What does that mean? I think we're all born, God has blessed us all with amazing instincts. The people that get themselves in trouble in life are the people that rage against their instincts, that fight against it. Whether it's with relationships, whether it's with schoolwork, whether it's with athletics, you name it, when you fight against your instincts, you're typically wrong. So what does that mean? I'll tell you a couple stories. I was a pretty successful gold trader for a company called AIG. Our group was a Drexel Burnham group that was bought by AIG, and I was doing it for about 10 years, and Goldman Sachs calls up. Now, Goldman Sachs doesn't call up every day, but they happened to call me up on this day. Their head gold trader needed to go to London to work on something, and they wanted me to come in to be the head gold trader at Goldman Sachs. This is March 1996. So I went into their offices on 85 Broad Street, sat down in a conference room, about the size of the room behind you, on my left, your right. And in that room was a gentleman named Jim Riley and a guy named Lloyd Blankfein. Anybody know who Lloyd Blankfein is? Few people know. So Lloyd then ran fixed income, currency, and commodities at J. Aron. He's now the CEO of Goldman Sachs. So they brought me in, and they said, Guy, you know, we've been following your work over the last few years. Everybody speaks very highly of you. We would love for you to come in and be the head gold trader here at J. Aron, which is sort of the Oakland Raiders within Goldman Sachs. If you call there now, they still answer the phone J. Aron, which is a completely different subject, but it means that these people they're the renegades of the investment banking world. At any rate, I say, wow, Lloyd, Jim, this is an unbelievable honor. It'd be a privilege to work at Goldman Sachs. I said to them, do I have some time to think about it? And I'll never forget this. Lloyd says to me, he goes, Guy, you can take all the time you want. He goes, but I need an answer before you leave this room. So there, my instincts take over, right? What does that mean? It means if I didn't immediately say yes to Lloyd right there, even if I wound up with the job, I'd have a bullseye on my back. So without even flinching, I said, you know what, Lloyd, you're 100% right. When do I start? I trusted my instincts, right? I trusted my instincts. Give you one more story. Now it's it's probably, about 10 years later or so, CNBC comes calling. Now, Goldman Sachs doesn't allow you to do television, but the firm that I went to wanted to get sort of out there, wanted to get their brand out. So they allowed me to do these 30-second trader hits that you see from time to time on CNBC. So in November of 2005, the phone rings, and they said, hey, it's such and such from CNBC. Would you be interested in coming in to talk to us about an idea we have for a show? I said, yeah, what do I have to lose? Absolutely. So a week or so later, I went across the river, Englewood Cliffs. I had dinner, met a few people. This crazy guy came storming in. His name was Dylan Radigan. He had an earpiece in. His hair was all over the place, tie askew. Told us about this great idea that he had along with somebody else. We want to do a show. We want to replicate a show. What do traders do? What do they look like? What do they talk about? Where do they go when the day is over? We want to capture that on a TV show. No name yet, but that's the idea. Like, this sounds pretty cool. Turns out it was pretty cool. Mary can speak to this. They brought hundreds of people in to screen test for this on all different desks, all different hosts, and they kept coming back to 4 of us. I fortunately was one of those people. So all through 2006, the show, to the extent you've ever seen it, Fast Money, which is an hour every day, about 2 times a week, would be an 8-minute segment on an existing show. In September, we get a phone call. All right, look, this is on a Thursday, by the way. Larry Kudlow is going away next week. Larry's time slot was 5 to 6. We've decided to give you guys a shot. You're going to be on all next week, 5 to 6, live TV. The most we'd ever done at one time was 8 minutes. We're about to be an hour show for a week. But somehow, grace of God, we pulled it off, and actually our numbers were better than Larry was doing. So December comes rolling around, and it's clear now that Fast Money is viable. It's going to be a show. What's my point? I had a job. I worked for a bank. So they called me in and said, look, Guy, we've allowed you to do this, but you know what? We think it's in the best interest of us and you if you stop doing it. So I said, you're making a mistake. This is a great thing for me, clearly, but it also could be a great thing for the firm. They didn't see it that way. So what did I do? I trusted my instinct. The easy thing to do, now I'm probably 42 at the time, 3 kids, mortgaged a whole rig, making decent coin at the job I'm at, and I'm about to quit my job. Could have lasted for a month, but there was no way to foresee that it could last 9.5 years, but I had an instinct about it, felt right. So you know what? I took a shot. And you know what I said to him? I said, you know what? I'm sorry you're making this decision. I quit, got up, and walked out. Now you say, oh, you're a big shot guy. No, I'm not. I'm not a big shot at all. That was a huge risk. But you know what? It was the right play, and I trusted my instincts. And in terms of risk, I'll give you another one. This show we just mentioned, that was a huge risk. But, as fate would have it, a friend of mine, who I now work with, asked me to be on the board of directors of Leukemia Society. I said, absolutely, 100%. Whatever you need, John, I'm in. So my first board meeting was on a Thursday afternoon. As fate would have it, and again, I believe in this stuff, 2 days prior, on our show, Fast Money, at the end of the show, we had 3 guys on. They had just spent the last 5 years of their life putting together, getting all the licenses and what have you, to put on what would be the first ever New York City Ironman. Does anybody know what an Ironman is? Go ahead, young lady. What is it? Give me the distances.
Me?
She raised her hand. So it's a 2.4 mile open water swim. 2.4 miles. Does anybody swim? How many laps in a pool do you think that is, ish?
2.4 miles, it's like 140 laps.
It's pretty good. It's about 180 laps in a pool. Wrap your head around that. Open water. Followed by a 112-mile bike ride. Anybody go to Long Beach Island here? Anybody? LBI? So from here to LBI is about 112 miles. So get on a bike, get on the Garden State Parkway, and go to LBI. And after that, if you get off the bike, what's the last rung of that thing? Anybody know? Marathon. 26.2 miles. The last 0.2 is the one that's going to get you. They give you basically from 7 a.m. until midnight to finish this thing. And along the way, you have to make different cutoff points in terms of time. Why do I tell you this? Because these 3 cats are going to put one on in New York City, first ever. And I'm like, these people are nuts. Nobody does this stuff. It's not human, right? We exchanged business cards, pleasantries, and what have you, never thinking in my wildest dreams I would see these cats again, until that board of directors meeting 2 days later. Cancer survivor gets up. Cancer survivor from AML, a killer, 16% survival rate. This guy gets up and says, you know what, beat AML, now I'm doing Ironman, and I'm raising money for the Leukemia Society. I'm like, oh my God, this guy's a stud, total stud. So at the end of the meeting, I go to the director, I said, look, for what it's worth, I just met the guys that have put on the first ever New York City Ironman. Thing sold out in 9 minutes. I said, but if I ask them, I bet you they can give us spots, Leukemia Society spots. I'll get us 10 spots. We could raise a lot of money if I get those spots. She said to me, you do that, unbelievable. Like, that's it. My good deed for the year is done, and I'm 3 days into my directorship at Leukemia Society. So I call the guys up, they say, Guy, whatever you need, we're huge fans of Leukemia Society, you got it. I call up Stacy, 10 spots, yours. She goes, Guy, that's great. She goes, but what I didn't tell you is, we want you to do it, and we want you to put together the team. All right, so I'm 42. I'm 238 pounds. Some blockheads in here. You play football?
Yeah.
Right, so you're like me, right? Just blockhead, big, right? You like to hit people, hit the whole thing. But you're not an endurance athlete, right? Like, you know, you have running, that's not doing it for you. So I'm 238, 42 years old. I get out of breath walking up the stairs, ask my wife, no kidding, to the point where she's like, you got to go see somebody, man, because you ain't going to make our kids' graduations. So I say yes. People, to a person, everybody said, Guy, either going to die or you're going to embarrass yourself. One or the other. It's binary, but neither outcome is good. But I said, you know what? There's a reason why I met those guys. And there's a reason why, 2 days later at the board meeting, that guy got up and told me the story about the Ironman. Great AIG commercial. The greatest risk is not taking one. And I'm not saying take a risk for the sake of taking risks. But every once in a while, you got to take a shot in life. I took a risk to do that show, and I took a huge risk to sign on to this Ironman. So I had about 8 months or so to whittle myself down. I went from 238-ish to 189 day of the race. My resting pulse that day was like 46, so I was probably clinically dead, but I was in pretty decent shape. Now, this was on August 11th, I believe. 3 days prior, middle of the week, there was a raw sewage spill in Terrytown. Anybody remember that by any chance? You're probably too young to remember that. But up in Terrytown, there was a huge raw sewage spill in August in the Hudson River. By the way, this swim part was in the Hudson River. So there was a chance they were going to cancel the swim. Thank God they didn't. Got in, got out of the water. Couldn't believe, I was so happy, I was literally jumping up and down because I thought there was a 50-50 shot I was going to drown that day. Didn't tell my wife. What I did do was this. I got together all the insurance forms, all the important people to call, who I wanted to be my pallbearers. No kidding. And I put it in an envelope, and I put it in a place where, after she was done crying for the 5 minutes, so she would have cried, she would have come across it. Got out of the water, got on my bike. 8 hours later, I was starting the marathon portion at 5 o'clock. Got to the top of a hill, and I look in front of me, and all it is hills. You know the area around here. Well, there's a park down below the GW Bridge. It's all hills. So I just finished 2.4 mile swim, 112 mile bike. I'm about to start the marathon. It's 5 o'clock on an August day. It's hot. I'm miserable. Just then, there's a hand on my shoulder. Now, what I didn't tell you was, a few months prior to me doing this thing, I get a book in the mail. A guy that I had never met before. But the book is about, it's called 1 Hour Ironman. And his point was, not everybody is 165 pounds. There are some people that have jobs, don't have the time, but if you train an hour a day, you can get through this. His name is Bob Schuler. He sent me this book, and he sent me a 2-page typewritten note about all the things I should be thinking about that day. I called him up because he left his number. I said, Bob, that's really nice. He's like, Guy, I watch your show every day. I love you. Good luck. By the way, I'm going to be doing it as well. I go, Bob, if you happen to see me, please come up and say hi. Never thinking I'd see this guy. There are 2,500 people doing this thing. So, what did I just tell you? I stopped, right, just at the top of the hill. Just as I stopped, about to say, you know what, there's no shot of me finishing this, there's a hand on my shoulder. It was Bob Schuler. He had just finished the first 7 miles of his loop, was about to start the second, and he came across me. Came across me at the exact time I needed him to. And he said, how do you feel? I said, I feel lousy. He goes, all right, this is what we're going to do. He goes, do you think you can walk up the hills? I said, yes. He goes, think you can jog down? Yes. He stayed with me for all 7 miles of my first, his second loop. He said to me that if you keep up this pace, you will finish with about 20, 25 minutes to spare. And he was dead on. I finished at about 11:30. You have until midnight to do it. By the way, we raised almost $800,000 for the Leukemia Society. And there's, yeah, that's pretty cool. And Bob, who was with me those 7 miles, was seeing all the Leukemia Society people come up and you would exchange pleasantries and stuff as you were walking or crawling, whatever you were doing. He was so inspired by that that he went on to do another 5 or 6 Ironmen to raise money for another cause. What's the point? I took a shot, huge shot, but you know what? It paid off in spades. One of the life-changing moments of my life because I wasn't afraid to take a chance. So those are the things you should be thinking about. And I'll end it with this, and hopefully you guys have questions because I'm here for you. If you don't believe in yourself, and I tell this to my kids every day, if you don't believe in yourself, nobody else will. It's not somebody else's fault. You didn't get that job, it's not somebody else's fault. You didn't make the starting team, it ain't the coach's fault. Nobody, if you don't believe in yourself, nobody else will. Make it happen. Make your destiny happen. You want to work at Goldman Sachs? Figure it out, right? You want to be a doctor? Figure it out. But don't wallow in self-pity because I'm not going to Harvard or I didn't get into Yale or this, that. Nobody cares. It's not interesting. What is interesting are the people that persevere and figure it out, right? The people that sit up front. The people that ask questions, that go the extra mile. Sending out your resumes and hoping something happens, that's very 1982. That's like my childhood. Those days are over. Now you got to be creative. Well, nobody recruits here. Too bad. You figure it out. You have alumni. I've mentioned Mary Duffy in the beginning. You want to do something in media? Reach out to her. Reach out to me. Mary will tell you, I'm very responsive. You have questions about things? How do I get in? Let me know. I'm here to help. But again, if you don't believe in yourself, the person on the other end of the phone's not either. Got to be confident. Absolutely. God's given every single one of us something special. It's incumbent upon all of you to figure out what it is and then to use it. Otherwise, you're just wasting your time. So look, it's an amazing day. I'm thrilled that you're all here. I would be outside throwing frisbees and having beers, so the fact that you're all here is really cool. But if anybody has any questions, fire away, because I'm here for you. Come on, somebody has to have a question. What's your question? What's on your mind? What year are you?
I'm a freshman.
Freshman. Play football?
I played in high school.
Where'd you go to high school?
High school?
We played Nyack. You guys play under the lights.
Yeah.
Yeah. We played there on a Friday. Played you guys tough. That's a long time ago. What do you want to do?
Business, sports management, something like that. I'm not sure.
How you figuring you're going to, like, what's the direction you go? Taking classes here, obviously. You have a summer plan?
Work. I actually went to the job fair yesterday. I'm looking for internships.
Good for you. When you meet people, what's your spiel?
Tell them what I plan to do. I mean, still freshman.
No, I get it. And I'm not trying to pick on you. I'm not. But you got to, that's how your head has to be screwed on that way. You can be walking across campus some random Tuesday, and out pops somebody that you, oh my God, I can't believe he's there. I'd love to work for this guy. You got to be ready for that. Opportunity comes at the most typically inopportune times. But you got to be ready, which means you can't have your head in what? Not that anybody here is doing it. I'm very happy, by the way. But you can't have your head in your phone, because you know what? We're supposed to be in the most social era of all time. We're in the most anti-social era of all time. And if you're able to get up and talk in front of a room of people, or in that interview, guess what? You're way ahead of the game. I see Mary Ann raising her hand.
I have a question. I just want to get this conversation started. So can you take everybody, because your day is amazing, in business, because now staff has a business school, Dr. Mihal's class. How do you prepare for the world of business? Take us through a typical day. What
Great
time
question.
you
So
get up?
how do you prepare for the day? This is what I tell people all the time. Natural curiosity in life takes you a long way, a long way. You know, there was a great graduation speech at University of Texas. It was a general. He said, first thing you do every morning, get up, make your bed. It sounds ridiculous, but at least you've accomplished something, right? There's a guy, one of the guys that did this Ironman with me is a guy named Leif Babin. His partner is a guy named Jocko Willink. These guys are leather-headed Navy SEALs, badasses. But this guy gets up every day at 4:30 in the morning, come hell or high water. What's the point? Have a goal in the morning. I get up early too. I get up at 4:30, but I get up pretty early. What's the first thing I do? Read something. Because the thing you start to read will lead you to something else. Just be curious about something. What happened last night in China? What's going on with the Bank of Japan? What's going on with this Draghi guy? Who is this Draghi guy? What's he all about? Start to read. Start to be curious. We waste so much time. Answer this honestly. How many people have responded to one of those nonsense emails that if you don't forward this in 8 minutes, the sun's going to explode? How many of you respond? I know you've all done it. Yes, thank you. It's such a waste of time, right? A colossal waste of time. Instead of doing all the nonsense we do on a typical day, spend 20 minutes if you want to get into business or sports management and read something about it. So that's what I do. Get up and I start to read. Then I start to send emails to people that I know might have answers to questions that I don't know the answer to. Because I'm curious about things. I have a day job. I work a day job. We do this show every day at 5 o'clock. So I get in a car, head into Manhattan, get my makeup on, don't laugh, and at 5 o'clock we do a live TV show. A lot of times after the shows we have business dinners or we'll speak at things, so it's a long day. But 24 hours is an amazing amount of time if you use it correctly. People say I don't have enough time in a day. Can I curse here? Bullshit. It's not true. You do have enough time. You just got to make the most of each minute. The best people I know are the most organized, and I'm not one of them. But you can organize your day almost down to the minute if you want to. So my day is spent reading, talking, listening, watching. And you'd be surprised at how much you can learn. Yes, young lady?
Give us like 3 tips for job interviews.
3 tips for job interviews. Love that question. This is the main thing. You walk into somebody's office, look around quickly. Mary Duffy has a great office. She's got pictures all over the place. You walk in and you look and you see what's on her desk, what's on a picture. And then you frame it in your mind. So you're having a conversation, and then organically it comes up, oh, I see you have a picture of Sally Jesse Raphael. She's such an inspiration to me, how do you know her? And then you get Mary talking about Mary. Because guess what? We all love to talk about ourselves, right? It's true. But if you can get the interviewer talking about him or herself, you're way ahead of the game. Now you own the conversation. Remember I said natural curiosity? That's it. You walk in, get your surroundings, figure out who this person is. If you're really clever, you're going to know who you're going to interview with beforehand, and you can do some homework on him or her. Where did she go to school? Where does he live? What sports do his kids play? I mean, you can get really granular with this stuff. And I don't walk in and lead with it, but conversations can organically come around to it. And if you can somehow weave that in, it shows you're on the ball. It also makes that person feel really good about him or herself, which in turn makes him or her feel really good about you. Does that make sense? You do feel good about yourself? Somehow magically the money will find you. Don't work at Wall Street because you think that's where the money is. That's a wrong reason, man. Work there because that's what you want to do, because that's what makes you tick. What do you want to do in life? Where's your head at? You. I'm looking right at you, man.
I'm looking at
You want to be an accountant because you want to do it, because somebody told you to do it.
No, I found out early.
Good for you. So you know what you want to do. That's a gift, man. A lot of people don't. But a lot of people think they know what they want to do because that's what their parents told them or their uncle, or because that's what they read in some magazine, because the wealthiest people, the 500 wealthiest people, 2/3 of them are hedge fund managers or something. Doesn't matter. Do what you want to do, the money will follow. Yes, sir.
What happens if you think you know what you want to do, but you're not actually convinced?
Great question. 52, no idea still. But you know what? You follow it, man. You go down the path. Be open to things that might seem not what your path should have been, but seemingly the path that God's put you on. You just got to be open to things. You got to have your eyes open. You can't walk down the street like this. You got to have, you have to have your head on a swivel. So I hear what you're saying, and I'm still wondering at 52, like, what's the next chapter? But I know there is one, and I'm open to whatever that is. But you got to be open-minded in the whole process. I saw another. Yes, sir.
What made you want to be in the financial world and be a trader?
Yeah, great question. So I told you my parents were attorneys, right? So this is another fun story. So they said they were representing a guy who worked at Drexel Burnham. They said, listen, my son's going to be home for Christmas break. Would you mind having him in? Bring him in. 60 Broad Street, Drexel Burnham, Lambert. Anybody here ever heard of Drexel Burnham? Anybody? Mike Milken? Nobody. I'm feeling old, man. Anyway, you talk about Oakland Raiders. These guys were the Oakland Raiders, man. There was a guy named Mike Milken. He was making $500 million a year in the 1980s for himself. And these guys were crushing it. So I went in to meet these cats, right? I walked in Monday, got there early, 7 a.m., got on the train, subway, the whole rig, suit, tie, the whole rig. Went down, they put me at the end of the trading desk. Day went by, nobody said a word to me. Didn't even look at me. Monday, Tuesday, same thing. Wednesday, same thing. Thursday, same thing. Friday, guy walks up to me, who'd been there all week, didn't say a word. He goes, you came here all week, you didn't say a word. What are you looking to do? And very sheepishly I said, I want to get a job. Now he said words that I won't say here, but in a nutshell, what he said to me is, if you want a job, you should have said something on Monday. So right there, I knew, I don't know what these guys and gals do, but I want to do it. For me, it was professional sports without the contact. It was as close as I was going to be to playing for the Yankees or the Rangers or the Knicks. Because there was an energy to it. And there was a scorecard at the end of every day. And you could get crushed one day, you could crush somebody the next day, but the next day there was another game. And I loved that energy. There was an immediacy to it, right? And that's what makes me tick. I'm not meant to do things that take 6-9 months a year. It's just not the way I'm built. But for trading, it was perfect for me. So that's how I did it.
But we would have gone to an interview straight out of college. Like, where's the line between being overly confident and you're open and all
Right.
experience?
Well, you know who you are. I mean, you're confident in yourself. Yeah, you don't have the experience of working on a desk at J. Aaron or at Bear Stearns or Lehman or any of those, you don't have that experience. But you have your life experiences, and you can be confident with that. There's a fine line between arrogance and confidence. And I don't know, sometimes I might get on either side of that line, but you got to be on it. Because if you're on the wrong side of it, you're dead. You know what I'm saying? So you got to feel good about yourself, how you dress, how you present yourself, how you look at people, how you shake their hand. That to me is the most important thing. I mean, I'm sort of got some German Shepherd in me, I think, because in 30 seconds I can sort of tell if somebody's going to make it or not in my world. And there's an arrogance to that comment. It's not meant to be, but you can gauge it. You can tell. So you got to feel good about it. When you walk in there, you got to be armed and ready to go. People say, kid sent me a thing, he was doing his freshman project at a high school, and he wanted to do it on public speaking. One of the questions he asked is, how do you be a good public speaker? And the one word was, be prepared, right? I don't have a note in front of me, but I'm prepared. My life prepared me in a lot of ways for this. The same way you can prepare for the interview you're going to walk into. Make it fun. Don't be intimidated. People can, like sharks can smell blood in the water. The people you're interviewing with, they can smell fear. And that's a smell they don't want to smell. So feel good about yourself. Does that help? Who else? I don't blame you. Oh, I'd like to go outside too. So listen, I'll end it on this. Believe in yourself. You want to do something, do it. The only person stopping you from fulfilling your dreams is you. Mary's here to help. I'm absolutely here to help. You can get my email is available. You want to find out something, email me. I'm pretty good about responding back. Feel good about what you're doing here. Feel good about what the school's become, what it's going to become, and when you graduate from here, the things you can achieve. On that note, go outside and have fun. Thanks.
A huge thank you to Guy for coming, and a great thank you to Mary Duffy, one of our Board of Trustee members here at STAC, who kind of keeps our connection to CNBC and Fast Money alive. So thank you to you both.